Your managerial career, Steve, I mean, there's so many fantastic moments. I mean, I think you're taking Crawley Town to Old Trafford. 2011?
2011.
Old Trafford, 74,000 fans. A 1-0 defeat. Now, I know, even though it was Manchester United, the defeat will still gut you. But everything considered, that was phenomenal, how much of a game you gave Manchester United.
We should have beat them.
I look at the team they had out as well. You know, a lot of the big names, Wes Brown, Michael Carrick, Hernandez.
Yeah.
They had some top players. You're up against Sir Alex Ferguson and you've given them the fright of their lives.
Well, Sir Alex, it would have been I was very privileged to be treated by Sir Alex. It's probably the same as how he treats everyone, with a real Glaswegian hospitality afterwards. But it dawned on me what he really thought is when I got home and we're all keen as lower league managers in with a deal like that to watch it back. Yeah. And Sir Alex's words at the end of that game is, the best team have gone out of the cup today, but we've just drawn Arsenal. And so from that point of view, he gave us all the respect in the world, because 4 days before we went to Old Trafford, we were playing Wrexham away, which was a big league game for Crawley Town. And they were coming like a train towards the playoffs, and we were trying to win the title. And I can remember before the game, I went out to take my place in the technical area, and walking down the tunnel, Alex Ferguson and Mike Phelan came to watch the game. And his press conference 2 days before that day at Old Trafford was to say, I went because this is not a normal non-league club. This is Crawley Town, who look a league club, everything bar where they are now. And treat us like sensationally.
Is that still a kind of hairs in the back of the neck moment for you, Steve, even just thinking about that day at Old Trafford and walking out with your team, the way your team performed, and those comments that you're telling us about? I mean, that's
I think
high praise indeed.
Yeah, I think standing next to who I would regard still to this day as the best manager that's ever lived in my time. Yeah. You know, his success, his passion. Of course, he was, when I was a kid, you know, back at 15, 16, and even later when I went down to Largs as part of the Scottish Football Association coaching courses, and Sir Alex would appear, and I'm talking about the Lamberts, and I'm talking about, you know, the McCoys and the Boyd. When Fergie appeared, Sir Alex as it is now, it was an aura. He'd come walking down the hill with wee Brown, and he'd come walking down, and he would just see them. So therefore, to be standing at Old Trafford in front of 75,000 people, and we're going to kick off, and it's live on the telly, you're thinking, I'll have a bit of this, me.
See when you're actually stood there and you've got a moment to look around the stadium, do you have the opportunity to actually think, what a job, this is incredible, this is as good as it gets?
Well, I've been lucky. I've been 31 years a manager. I think I've had 2 or 3 years. I've probably in total I've about 2.5, 3 months out of football in 31 years, and but there's still some things that happen in your career that pinch you a little bit, and I think that was one of the moments. You know, driving up to Old Trafford, thinking, look at this, we're non-league here. We're top of the National League, and we're 75,000 people's turning up. Just incredible. But you know, what Manchester United would give to have that man back now.
There's another aspect of that day that I always chuckle, and you've told me about this before, Steve, and I'm hoping you can relay this to those that are watching our one-on-one today. You were upset because you wanted to get Sir Alex a right good bottle of wine, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
You instructed your assistant to go and get one, and you were absolutely shocked at how much you spent on it, didn't you?
Yeah, so it was, what happened is after the cup draw, we were Little Crawley Town. The Sun newspaper came forward to sponsor our shirts and sponsor our
fantastic gesture, Steve. Great paper.
No, it was, well, whoever made that decision, thank you, sponsored myself. It was unbelievable. So then what happened is I hope I get this name right, because he was really a brilliant guy, Paul Jiggins, who's lost his life since, but he's up the stairs. So Jiggins spent all week with us, and it was incredible.
Fantastic writer, great character.
Yeah, so I said to him, I'm going to take Sir Alex's bottle of wine. So I'm going to get a nice one. But there's 2 stories to this. So obviously the Sun gets me a bottle of wine, puts it in a box, and so I'm the front page of the Sun on a Saturday morning. The front page of the Sun with a box said, "This is for you, Alex," or something like that. And then, but the day before, when we've travelled to Manchester for the game, my brother was one of our scouting staff at the time, and I said to him, "There's my debit card. Get into Manchester. get a taxi, there's the money, and get Sir Alex a nice bottle of wine. Well, I'm thinking, 60 quid's a nice bottle of wine, isn't it? And so Eddie goes, and he comes back, and we're training, because at Mottram Hall where we stayed, there's a pitch on site, so we're training. And finishes training, goes back, and my brother says, your debit card, Steve. So brilliant. Oh, boy, it's great. He says, wine's in the room, so I go up, box. That's not, hey, you'd be pleased with this. So I said, what of that? So he goes down, and next morning, we're having breakfast, and family's travelling up for the game. Wife rings me, she says, what were you doing yesterday? I went, what do you mean? She goes, you never have a drink before a game. I went, no. She went, £375 for a bottle of wine. I went, you what? So it was unbelievably expensive. But of course, when after the game, I've kept it in the dressing room. After the game, we got invited in by Sir Alex. So a couple of his coaching staff come and said, you go first, you have some 10 minutes with him on your own. So brilliant. So I goes in, and I've got this box. Of course, he's seen the sun that morning. He went, he says, let me have a look. 100% straight face. Brilliant, right? So we sat there. So he opens the box, and he takes the tissue paper off, and he goes, oh, that's rubbish, that. Straight face.
Killed you.
Oh, I am like, that's worse than the 1-0 defeat. I've now gone, right?
You're distraught.
Yeah, I'm thinking, oh, what? I said, really? He went, Albert, who's his kit man, he went, Albert, and there's a guy behind his little bar, he went, give him a proper glass of wine. So this other glass of wine comes across, right? And then so he's sitting, and my staff come in and different things. But I've still got this thing about the wine, right? So at the very end, he said, Stevie, we're throwing you. You've been here for an hour and a half. Your coach needs to go. I says, right. I says, one thing, can I just introduce you to my two brothers who have come down from Glasgow? And my wife and daughter who have come up from here. Can you just, in the tunnel? He went, yeah, go. So he sends somebody out, so they get escorted through. So in the big tunnel that people see from on the television at Old Trafford is that big red door. Sir Alex's car would be inside it.
Right.
And it would all be temperature controlled, running, etc. So he says, so he's met all my family, and he says, come on, Steve, I'll see you. So he goes walking out towards the car, and of course, he's got his back seat open to put his jacket on. What's in the back seat? What's in the back seat?
A bottle of wine.
My box of wine, yeah? I says, it can't be that bad, he said, to be fair, it's a tremendous vintage. I'll have it tonight. And that was it. He says, I'm not sharing it. And again, this is amazing. He says, you'll win the league comp. We did. I think about 2 months later, played at Tamworth, people up the road I've not heard of. But we played at Tamworth, won 3-0, won the championship, so we're promoted to the Football League. We're heading back to Crawley on the team coach. Several messages, several people ringing me. Up comes Alex Ferguson. Hello, told you. Congratulations. Welcome to the Football League.
Wow.
Amazing. And I come off the phone, I went, and it was quickly as that call come, it went. And I'm like, wow.
That's
Brown
incredible.
phone, he says, the Fergie ring you.
Incredible.
I went, yeah. He went, isn't he amazing? That was the respect that Craig Brown had for Alex.
By far, the biggest club you've managed so far, Steve, Leeds United. 8 months. 8 months. 8 months, yeah. I mean, an opportunity to manage a club like Leeds United. Can you describe that feeling for me when the day one you've just become manager of Leeds and all the history of that club?
Well, it was incredible. I was in the car, and I don't normally ever answer a mobile number. I don't know. Never answer. I'll leave a message or whatever. I'll go back to him. But this mobile number come up, and I thought, it's 5:30 on a Saturday. Hello. And this gentleman starts speaking. I could understand some of it and not the rest of it. And it was Massimo Cellino from Leeds United. And said, could I have just dismissed the manager, Uwe Rosler, and would you meet me at Ellen Road tomorrow? And so he says, I said, fine. I says, is it okay if you confirm it in the morning? I'm thinking, who is this guy?
Yeah. And you're sceptical, to say the least. You're thinking this is a wind-up.
Could be a mate. I've had it all over 30 years, right?
Yeah.
So he says, yes, I call you at 10 o'clock, Ellen Road, 12 o'clock. So where I lived, at what? So get up, best white shirt I could find, best tie,
So, hang on a minute. So, you were sceptical on the phone call.
Yeah.
You then subsequently checked it out before you went to the meeting?
No, so I said to him, ring me. Could you ring me in the
Right,
morning?
okay.
And reaffirm the time.
Okay.
He says, I'll ring you, coach, 10 o'clock.
I understand, yeah.
Before 10 o'clock, I'll ring you.
Yeah.
So Sunday morning gets up, said, your best shot. So the suit I went to mass, out it comes. Right, it's there. So we're ready to go. I'm sitting there. 10 o'clock. Mobile's there. Yeah, I went. And no phone call. Mobile. 10:15, I'm in the kitchen. I'm saying to Sarah, I'll get this person who it was. So my tie's off, right? And then about 10:30 the phone rings, and it obviously I'd saved the number, and I went, Mr. Chilino. He says, Coach, sorry, a little bit late, 1 o'clock, Ellen Road, this building, this entrance, security to bring you in. And I didn't realise until after it, I did at the time, but I went in, and it must have been a 5-hour chat about football, systems, players.
Just you and him?
Just me and him. And the one thing that Gary Monk, who's just lost his job at Cambridge United, Gary was very successful at Leeds straight after me. And Gary said, what do you think of Massimo? I said, 1,000,000%. In sobriety, what a man. Knew every player in the league, every system, every shape, every manager, every coach's statistics. Unbelievable. 7 o'clock at night onwards, don't listen so much. That was the reality of it. And Gary found the same. But that 5 hours, it was just purely business, system, shapes. If I asked you how this team play, how does that team play? What system do they play? Who's the best 3 strikers in the league? What about centre-backs? If I said we had €5 million tomorrow, who do we sign? That type, all the things you go through. And we're 4 or 5 hours in, and just at the drop of a hat at the end of it, he says, okay, he says, I'm going to just give me 10 minutes. If you step out, Steve, go a wee break or whatever. He says, I'm just going to phone the secretary, we'll get the contract drawn, and you'll be Leeds manager.
Wow.
And that was it. And by 7 o'clock, I'd signed.
Yeah, 10 years earlier, you sat down with Vladimir Romanov, you do your due diligence. So was there not even the opportunity to do something similar with Celino?
Yeah, there was the option, and I did make 1 or 2 calls on the way up before I met him. And it was he's got a problem with the fan base, and Massimo's biggest problem was in European football, every individual big club, say Juve, they negotiate their television rights. So if it was Sky Sports Italy, they would negotiate with Sky Sports Italy what their portion is, because Juve is a big draw, and Milan's a big draw. There's probably clubs in that Serie A that's not big draws. Massimo's thing as part of the Football League was, we're Leeds United, we're on every weekend, we're losing 3,000 or 4,000 fans through the gate because we're live on the telly. Yet we get the same royalty payment as somebody who...
A lesser club.
Yeah. So that was his only downside with the fans. The fans didn't want to see him fight, and the fans wanted investment, all the stuff that he was trying to do. But I was told he'd support me. It turns out he didn't. But it was Leeds United.
How soon into the job did you realise it maybe wasn't quite what you thought was going to be on the menu?
Well, I went in the September, and it was the January. We didn't have any sporting director. And we'd done really well. We'd got to ourselves to about, I think, 6-7 points from the playoff group. And he always told me, if you bring it within 10, I'll support the January window. So in the January window, he said, if you can sell a couple of players, that would help. So we sold Sam Byron to West Ham for just over 3 million. And we sold a player to Bournemouth for 9 million. And so we had 5 or 6 players lined up around the country that I was dealing with agents, I was trying to deal with sporting directors or owners of other clubs, etc.
You're doing everything.
Yeah, but always coming back to Massimo for ticking the box.
Yeah.
And he ticked the box for 5 of them, 2 days before deadline day. So, and our secretary had all the comfort feelings as well. He'd been speaking to these clubs, they were agreeing, everyone was in paper trail with the secretaries was good. And then I went down as I did most days to Ellen Road, mid-afternoon on deadline day. 11 o'clock deadline at night, so lots of time. And I walked in and Massimo just said, I'm not doing any business. There's no one coming in. You asked for rationales, and the rationale was, I'm just not doing it. That was hard. That's the time you think, how serious are we? But then you learn within 2 or 3 weeks after that, he was really close to selling it.
Was there, how much interference was there in terms of football affairs? None?
None. And me and Gary Monk get dismayed at this. The people that come out and say that Massimo wanted to interfere with the team, it was either they were weak or they made it up. Because what we found is, for example, when Brendan Rodgers sits with Dermot Desmond, Dermot Desmond will have a view on the midfield play. He'll have a view on Callum McGregor.
Yeah.
He'll have a view on Alistair Johnson.
Yeah.
He'll have a view on Casper. He'll have a view.
And why not?
He should have a view.
Yeah.
My chairman will have a view. Oh, I wasn't happy with so-and-so today, Steve. I think he played well. Oh, is he playing well in the reserves? Because I'm not so sure he's doing well. That's not picking your team, Derek.
Yeah.
That's not picking your team.
Yeah.
So Massimo would have those views, but he wouldn't pick a team.
I mean, to be Ellen Road as manager, and I mean, it's a magnificent club, isn't it? The history, but especially the Scottish connection at Leeds United was every day. Did you go in with the chest kind of puffed out, and you know the training ground? I've been to see you at the training ground 10 years ago, and was everything about it just fill you with excitement, give you a buzz?
Yes. At the end of the day, it's Leeds United. This gives you a buzz.
Yeah.
Leeds United is an iconic football club.
Yeah.
And my particular first day is we go in, we get introduced to the players, we take training. And so I've got a lot of things to catch up on that's been sitting there for a few days. And and the young lady comes up to my office from downstairs and says, I've got two gentlemen in reception who want to see you. And I went, I ain't got time for that today. I said, but, you know, book it in for... She said, I think you should see them, Gaffer. I went, no, I ain't got time. She goes, well, okay, I can pass that message. She just turns. I remember my manners from my dad, who's long gone. I says, who is it? She says, Peter Lorham and Eddie Gray. I went down the stair, right? Down the stair. How long? And they trip me. They are, Peter's gone, but they are iconic legends, not only in football, but Scotland, Leeds. And they treat me like a brother.
The thing is, I've spoken to you before, you know, we've had a few conversations about Leeds United over the years, and the thing is, no one can ever take that away from you, can they? You manage Leeds United.
You know, when we were doing well at Leeds United fans would never accept us, but when we were doing really well at Leeds and it got towards the Christmas period, Hull were top of the league and Bussy was manager, and we beat them 2-1 in front of nearly 50,000 or whatever. It was an incredible feeling. And I can remember getting home that night, and my wife looked at me, I sat in the chair and a glass of wine, she goes, you couldn't be any happier. You know what I said to her? I could be the Celtic manager beating Rangers. That's what I said. and she giggled. But you know what? It's a football club that, if it all works out itself, they'll be in the Premiership next season. And under Daniel, they'll stay there.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you're at Mansfield Town as well, Steve, and it's fair to say you have one of the most glamorous chief executive officers, Caroline Radford, wife of the old club owner. I think there's probably only Karen Brady that would be the other kind of high profile female in the game. How did that dynamic work? How did you work together?
Very well.
Yeah.
I mean, John was your daily interaction. John Radford, the chairman.
Yeah.
He was the daily interaction. But when it came to finance, and Caroline was a solicitor by trade.
Yeah.
And probably because she is simply beautiful.
Yeah.
Inside and out, right? Inside and out. Beautiful person, beautiful looking lady. I don't think she got the respect of the game that she deserved. But I certainly gave her the respect. But when we went on finance, we'd have some debates about players or contracts or trying to get new players or different things. And believe me, she was strong. But absolutely, I still speak to the Radford family weekly.
Yeah.
WhatsApps, whatever. Incredible people.
I mean, they've been there so long as well, isn't it? I mean, it's well over 10 years, isn't
incredible
it?
people.
You know, it's not as if they're kind of fly-by nights that have just come in and then they've gone.
Listen, very wealthy people who started with nothing.
Yeah.
John started on a council estate between Mansfield and Nottingham, and built himself up to where he is today.
Yeah.
And in many respects, 50 pence is still 50 pence, but equally, he can be the most generous man you could ever wish to meet as well.
Yeah. And the commitment to the club speaks for itself, isn't it? I mean,
well, I think you look at I think it's millions of pounds every year. I mean, £5-6 million every year, continually, never questioned. in my time there, they were just building a training ground. I've been there since. It's a fantastic facility. The most passionate fans.
Yeah.
You know, these are minor fans in the distant days. Generations of that. Give me a bit of stick when I go. Plenty of stick. But you know what? If that's behind your football club, you have a chance.
What is the level of stick for you most weekends? I mean, I had a long conversation with Stuart Kettlewell. Obviously, the circumstances with Stuart, he suddenly resigned from Motherwell, but especially upset over the level of abuse that was upsetting his family. On a kind of average basis, Steve, when you come out that tunnel, what kind of stick are you having to take?
I get none out that tunnel. They all sing my name coming out that tunnel.
Yeah.
And this is not
obviously away fans.
This is not winning. Away fans.
Away fans, of course. I'm talking about away fans.
Right.
What would be the level you would get?
Yeah, I think probably like from behind the goal or the equivalent of a big travelling support, or you got in the away ground. No more than most managers if they're known.
Yeah.
There's more and more managers not known. I don't suppose the new Motherwell manager would be getting stick at Ibrox. They won't know his name.
Yeah.
So, and that's not condescending because it might prove to be a brilliant appointment.
Yeah.
But I've never been too conscious of a cop end, if you like, singing I'm this, I'm that, and whatever. That literally is part and parcel of what happens in football.
Yeah.
It's the one-on-one, Stuart touched on it, it's the one-on-one personal abuse that would get to you. I'm fortunate my family don't put themselves out there to be abused. My family are very reserved. They come to games. People wouldn't know they're my family. They stay in the background. But as a family saying it'll never ever change it, and it's my wife's family saying, everyone's got feelings, Everyone's got feelings. So it's the type of abuse that would get you. The one-on-one personal abuse from 5 yards, they're not entitled to do. Because if they've done it in the high street, they get locked up. Or a broken nose. And I don't fight, so it's got to be locked up.
One thing I've always thought, Steve, about you as a manager, there's one thing I felt from afar that's always seemed to kind of hang over you.
Yeah.
Boston United, there was a conviction, a tax-related conviction. You moved on from it, or you've tried to move on from it. Have you always had a sense that there's still a kind of certain prejudice against you? I mean, obviously, there was a lot of investigations at that time in the football club, obviously, primarily finance. And as I've said, you had to take a consequence for a particular matter. Have you got a sense in the game that there's people that are not prepared to let you move on from that?
I think you can't undo history. This was at a time that, to equate it for the Sun readers or viewers up the road, this was at a time where Boston United were at an equivalent level of Planter Celtic, Planter Vix, Cambuslang Rangers, where the chairman paid so much through a wage roll and so much expenses. We were very successful, and at that time we got a lot of publicity for being successful and challenging to go to the Football League. And what brings with that, quite rightfully, scrutiny. And when they came in, they said, then the revenue said, this shouldn't be the case. And therefore the people they're looking at was me, because I'd have to agree some of it, with no director of football, and the club owner. But what people would never hear, never want to listen to, is that, a couple of months before the proceedings were taken to court against me, I was given the opportunity to say to the prosecution service that where the owner's money come from. I didn't know. So if you don't know something, you can't say it. And I'm from the circuit. I went and told them anyway. So from that point of view, do I look back with some regrets, enormous, because I think it has prejudiced some people, not all, and my career shows that, but it has prejudiced some people.
That could have finished you there and then as a manager, of course, but what's obviously happened since then, your achievements, etc. As we speak now, you're able to keep your head held high.
Yeah, I think circumstances, Derek. I can tell you that too. I don't know if I've told this before, but I might have done, but it's a true story. So I came out of Boston. Obviously, I lost my job because I was suspended by the Football Association, quite rightfully, because it's not right. So I got suspended. So I'm in the garden with my girls, and some of my wife's at work. And she goes, sweetheart, don't forget to get some cash out for the window cleaner. He's here today. Yeah, no problem. So in comes the window cleaner. Hello, mate, you all right? Yeah, great. He's cleaned the windows. So he's come down the ladder. He says, top my bucket up. So tops his bucket up and having a chat. He says, that fella Evans lives around here, doesn't he? I said, what? He says, the boy, Boston Evans, yeah, he lives around here. I'm like, yeah, he does, mate. I said, he does. I don't want to talk. He went, I says, anyway, mate, much to you. He went, never forget, he says, it's £30. Last week and this week, she never paid. I went, oh, no problem. I says, goes in, comes out, checkbook. I went, who do you want? He said, oh, I don't want a checkbook. He says, I don't want a cheque, I want cash. I went, you know who you were slugging a minute ago? That Phil Evans, that's me. So you get, anyway, so the story being, he wanted the offer, loads of criticism, and didn't know any of the circumstances.
How did he whitewash that one?
As in, yeah, how did he whitewash it? Yeah, I think he waited and got paid for 3 weeks off the business.
What do you still want to achieve as a manager? Realistically, what's still within your capabilities, you think?
Yeah, I think first and foremost to take Rotherham United to the Championship.
Yeah.
You know, I took Rotherham United to the Championship. It was like when we got promoted, it was absolutely Donald Duck's chance we'd ever get relegated if I was the manager.
Yeah.
So secret managers have come in and failed and took them back down again. When I come back here in the summer, I think many people thought, there we go, it's easy, it's promotion. Evans delivers promotions if he goes on Leagues 1 and Leagues 2. But we had a lot of situations at this football club, not the top of the football club. The investment is £5 or £6 million every year from one family that comes in, right? But there was lots of heavy contracts. There was lots of players that didn't really want to be here. There was a lot of older players who were injured who still had contracts. So there's a lot of stuff that we've had to manage and fix. But it still doesn't legislate for us not being so good November and December.
Yeah.
And we've come back a little bit, although the last couple of weeks has been difficult, but sorry, because we've had some really horrifying decisions go against us.
What kind of player were you, Steve?
Very good. No, I played like the number 10, like two up front in those days when it was 4-4-2 principally. Yeah. And so I played almost like the second striker who would drop in and take it to feet. And normally I'd play with another either quick running behind or a big boy, you know, Alan McInally, for example, my time at United, Danny Masterton at Clyde, people like that. Yeah. And of course, what a goal scorer, John Brogan at St Johnstone. So I was lucky to play with the likes of them. Willie Pettigrew, when I went I went a little loan spell to Hamilton. I was amazed how quickly he just took shots and found the net. And so that was in the professional career. And I suppose growing up as a teenager, the likes of, you know, competing with McCoist and Mo Johnson and people like that, to Gardner Spears, for example, to be in that elite, whether it's Lancashire boys, Glasgow boys, Scotland boys, whatever it was quite elitist to get in there.
So we're talking about mid to late 70s, of course, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
70s, yeah.
You go to Clyde, Craig Brown,
just phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, I know, you know, Craig's passing a couple of years ago hit you hard, because I know how much he meant to you.
Yeah, Craig took on the role of my dad, really. My dad died many years ago, and my dad always said to me, he did say to me not long before he passed, not on his deathbed, but not long before he passed, is that just keep in touch with Craig, keep in touch with Weeboon, and he'll always keep you right. And
he did.
And he did. And all my career, he's been there in some pivotal moments, you know, and good and bad. And so he's someone when I didn't know he was there. I went to do some work with Sky Sports, and because Boyd was in the building, and I know Boyd did really well, and Boyd, he said, "Oh, I think your wee mate's not very well," and I had no sense of that from talking on the phone or whatever. And it just so happens that on the Sunday, Craig went to watch Dundee United, Aberdeen and Dundee United at Tannadice, and the footage went on to him, and I realised that we man had a problem. So there was lots of dialogue there on it, but there was always dialogue, and he was always there. And yeah, big loss in my life when it went. He was my mentor for 30 years.
Where do you think you would have been in football without Craig?
Probably not in some of the roles that I've been in. I wouldn't have been able to manage certain situations through lack of experience without speaking to him. I could phone him at any time, 24/7, and give a scenario of what the situation is. He'd never breach your confidence. And he was always careful in his thoughts how to manage it. So most definitely wouldn't have had the success.
In saying that, would you have had a few scrapes with him at Clyde? Would he have maybe voiced some frustration? You know, obviously you're a young player.
Yeah.
Would there have been some disciplinary issues or any tickings off that actually were for your own good?
Yeah, I don't think so much. I don't think ticking off in terms of falling. I had too much respect for, when I was a player, too much respect for whoever the manager was. I can remember he told me off once when I first bought a car, because he thought, as a young professional, walking to the train station up to Rotherham from Sheffield kept your fitness levels up, and then getting the train to Newton and walking down to Westbourne and Circuit was keep your fitness levels up. And he said, you can't be having a car at that age, you've got to keep fit and sharp. And I was like, and he had some real principles, because MD knows Craig's background. He was a lecturer by trade, he was a professional footballer, became a lecturer, and he had really, really high standards. And the thing that I learned him was put staff around you who are not only good, you need good staff. You need staff that challenge you. But you need staff that have your back, staff who's prepared to come in and say, I think you've got that wrong. Staff who's prepared to say, have a think about that again. And that's the one thing that not only when I played as a young man under him, but as I got to know him more as a manager and a leader years afterwards, that's a lot of things he taught me.
We look at Sheffield now, and I'm sure whenever you're back in Glasgow, I'm sure you're kind of drawn to Sheffield. And it must be desperately sad for you to look at Sheffield now, this kind of derelict, kind of wasteland. You know, I never saw Sheffield as a football venue. I did actually go to a few Greyhound meetings, but you look at it and it just strikes me as so desperately sad to see it so run down and just neglected. And that's it. Can you give me an idea what kind of venue that was like as a football venue?
It was a brilliant venue. Although you had the dog track round it, it sort of took some of the atmosphere away. But what you had is the proper Clyde supporters, didn't you, from Rotherham and Cambuslang and all around that area. I can remember a few years ago now, I went up to watch Clyde, and me forgetting they've gone to Cumbernauld. And I said to my brother, we're in Cambuslang, I said, well, we'll leave it 20-3. And he went, I don't know if you get any quicker, but we're not leaving at 23. And then it registered, of course, I knew they got to Cumbernauld, but it didn't feel the same to me as to the way that football club was. But yeah, any time I'll drive past Sheffield, I would think of Craig Brown, I'd think of Ross Matthew, I would think of Brian Ahern, who was my skipper, my first ever captain. I can remember my first ever goal for Clyde. I scored away Elgin in the FA Cup, the Scottish FA Cup, and Brian Ahern came from. I think that made us go 3-1 up. I think it did, or 2-1 up. But Brian Ahern came from the halfway line where he played and hugged me in the corner and said, "That'll be the first of hundreds for you," and that was Brian Ahern, who everyone at Clyde Football Club just idolised.
I mean, see, we've discussed your love of Celtic, but Clyde as a club will always be dear to your heart as well, won't it?
Always.
It set you on your way?
Yeah, I went over there as a schoolboy. I went 3 nights a week. I was very fortunate from when I was 14 that Craig elevated me to the first team group to train with them. And that's why I loved it so much. Clyde was such a club. You would be 15-year-old and not known to anyone, but some of the family that owned the football club would come in and say, "Hello, Stevie," and you're thinking, they know me, they own this football club, and the fans were brilliant.
You were that classic young player, that you had all the top clubs in Britain virtually want to sign you, and you went to Bolton. No disrespect to Bolton, but I think you had Manchester United, you had Manchester City, you had Celtic. Why Bolton? Arsenal, Liverpool.
Celtic. I think the decision came. I'd gone down to Manchester United. I'd gone to Arsenal. I just didn't. I just felt as if it was another number.
Bolton, to be fair, is a proper historical club in England, but
I think the difference is I came down there as a 15-year-old, probably with the warmest feeling from clubs in the world. Even Jim McLean was warm to me when he tried to get me to go to Dundee United, and I loved Jim. Some people didn't, but I loved him. But I came down to Bolton. I got met off the train by Ian Greaves, who's sadly no longer with us.
Yeah.
And Ian Greaves and a guy called Jim Conway, who was the head of recruitment or head scout at whatever Bolton. So they made me feel really welcome. I trained with the first team some of the days I was here, not often, but some of the days. They had me around like the Frank Worthingtons, Peter Reeds. I was like, these are just superstars.
Was Sam Allardyce there?
Sam Allardyce was
there.
Yeah, I could almost name the team. Nicholson was right back, Sam Allardyce, Dunny. Neil McNabb was numbered the part with Peter Reid. Watmore played in the 10. Alan Gowling and Frank Worthington up top. Willie Morgan on the right.
Oh,
it was outstanding. But the scenario went where I had decided that if I was going to go away from home and go to England, I was going to go to Bolton.
Yeah.
But the guy who took me down there, John Kelman, had left Bolton and become chief scout at Celtic. And I was due to sign for Bolton on the Tuesday, and on the Monday, I get in from school, and my dad said, "Oh, are you out tonight?" And when he went out, you get your ball and you go up to the garages and play. And I said, "Well, I'm going to die." He said, "Well, don't go out before 5 o'clock because Billy McNeil and John Clark are coming." And I was like, "Wow!" And John Clark I've met John Clark since. And I'd never thought in my wildest dreams that he'd have said to me, "Can you remember when we came to Westburn, me and Big Billy?" And they sat there for about 2.5 hours. And it's the only decision that I'd say in a long time, or many years, that I didn't make in terms of football, because they left. And my mum went to make a pot of tea, and my dad says, "What do you think?" And 1,000,000% I said, "I'll sign for Celtic." And my dad said, "Yeah, but the deal at Bolton is you get more money to just sign the forms than I can make in the next 5 years," which was true. And then you go to bed and you sleep, and so we said no to Celtic. And, yeah. I
mean, you've got two giants of Scottish football in your living room asking you to sign for Celtic.
Incredible.
How can you say no?
Well, I said yes. I had to say I did say no the next day, but I was. In many times when I went to Bolton and
so you did say yes, but then changed your mind?
No, I didn't tell Celtic yes. I told my dad yes.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Yeah. I beg your pardon.
So I said to Mum and Dad, "I'll go to Celtic," and then like families do. My dad was a welder, worked all his life, worked for everything to support the family. But the financial deal from Bolton was ridiculous. It was 6 figures to sign as a kid at 15, and that's just to sign the form. And you're thinking, this is bonkers, like so. And then my dad started talking about you could buy a house and you can do this, and you can't do that on £250 a week at Celtic, for example. So, but my love would have still said Celtic, and I said it Celtic. But I got talked around a little bit, but ultimately, mum and dad would have never made me doing that I didn't want to do. So I decided Bolton.
You played for good clubs, Steve, but obviously you're United and Albion Rovers, Johnson, Hamilton, but is your overriding feeling one of regret with your playing career that it never quite got to a level that you would have dreamed of before? Or obviously circumstances, injuries, etc.
I think the decision to come south changed it. I think in I don't know, it's probably been done many times since, but for example, under 15 level, which is the revered level of Scottish football, schoolboy football, my school team won the Scottish Cup and my amateur team won the Scottish Cup. And in the same year, which was pretty unusual for the school and the amateur teams to win it, or the schoolboy team. So it was, it never developed into the playing career that I look back and say probably, most definitely, that my ability should have had.
Did you have a right good night out with Frank Worthington?
Oh, Frank was a boy. I had one night only out with Frank, and I got dragged along to a nightclub in Manchester, and then I realised that although it was Bolton, Frank was the king. Frank was the undoubted king, and I had people like Big Sam, Peter Reid, Alan Gowling. Of course, I was playing with England at the time. Willie Morgan, Scottish legend. Neil McNabb, of course, who had just signed from Tottenham for 500,000-600,000. Neil McNabb had played for my dad's team when he was 15.
Wow!
So there was a connection there
Incredible.
as well. But yeah, I think going south probably hijacked my career when it would have been if I had a sign for Celtic.
Steve, it's been wonderful coming down to see you, and I really appreciate the time that you've made for us. Fantastic chat. Wish you the best for the rest of the season.
We'll need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Cheers.
Cheers.